Blessings and welcome forward to Reasonings right here at the Tree of Life. Yeah, I'm your host Jerome Sage Butler. Yeah, just packing up my, traveling bag that I bring my stuff with. Make it look, real neat and proper. Yeah. Blessings once again and welcome to Reasonings right here at the Tree of Life. And this particular episode, version, offering, manifestation. Yeah. Yeah, I fix up myself right and proper. Yeah, because usually it doesn't really matter to me, right? Totally. Yeah, if I am presentable, but I'm actually now there on a diplomatic mission from the divine spirit, from the ancestors, right? And so here I am. Have you noticed I'm in my manifestation of my traditional regalia? Now I know people say, well, Taino heritage has been destroyed upon the planet. So how do you know? And I want to say to you, how do you know yourself, right? How do anyone know anything, right? There is evidence, and there have been evidence that has manifested, not just through my manifested ancestors, which is still myself, right? And this new manifestation is a continuation of the old manifestation. So I'm going to go through all of those with the ancestors, and we're going to break those things down, like when we talk about the old manifestation and the new manifestation. And we're going to talk about time and space in a manner that most haven't talked about time and space, and most haven't heard about time and space. And we're going to talk about the history of terra firma, Tiamat, planet Heart, planet Earth to some, or this plane, like others have never heard it spoken about, not even on my channel. And there's been a specific reason why we did that. When I was on my path as a child, coming into my metaphysical understanding, I had an overwhelming outpouring of knowledge and information at 12 years old. When I did the first videos on Sela Media, I couldn't put everything in, and I'll tell you why. There was things I was still grappling with within myself as a human being. The imbalances with the new manifestations and the way I expected the being to operate when I awoke. And then there was this new manifestation that had made it operate differently. And as such, I was still grappling with that. Then I got into a lot of misunderstandings on the vibrational plane with other beings who were misled as well. And so there was a fight over the energy field that I possessed. And so I didn't want to say those things because it would have conflicted with a lot of the information and confused a lot of people. And this will be a confusing video, but it will be clear to those who are listening in spirit and in truth. So what I negated to say was Christ brought the reawakening to what I'd lost at 12 years old. I said I came to an awakening at 12 years old, but I also lost something here at 12 years old. What I didn't speak about on the Christ Save Me from Hell video are the things I'm now going to speak about. These things are not easily understood religiously in origin, but then the being which we call human being or humim is not an easily understood being. Alright, so that's my preamble, and then we're going to go right into it. So this particular offering is called the Archetype and the Source. Before I was 12 years old, I would often wake up in the mornings, see myself come out of what is called a cotton tree. A cotton tree in Jamaica is a tree where spirits are said to live in the tree. So I was waking up with my eyes opening, seeing myself coming out of this tree. I was so scared. I was like, what? Rub my eyes again, roll over again, bam, I'm back in my bed. And I was like, whew, save me there. So from as young as I can remember, I have to go to my mother's information, but I will correlate my mother's information with my information so you have a better picture. My first memory is of me creeping, right? And I creep over the wall up at my house, and I fell and entered into a state which the doctors cannot explain because they said I was dead for a brief moment in time, right? I entered into an astral plane, downloaded as a baby, vast amounts of information. Vast amounts of information inside this mind of a child. Because what I did not say to you was that I don't know if all babies are like this, but I don't know how much humans, remember their childlike perception or their baby thoughts. I couldn't see the difference between space and distance. Because if there was an object 15 to 20 meters away, be away, unclean. If there was an object 15 or 20 meters away, 100 meters away, and there was a gap in between, as a child, I did not see the gap. I only saw myself, where I was, and the space. I couldn't see the space in between. So the reason why I fell over the cliff at my house is because I remember my brother, you saw interference go? You're talking about your life? My life, the experience I've had, which is the experience of my ancestors. But here come these entities. You saw vibrations are, you saw confusing entities are. But this morning, the ancestors, the divine is with me, no confusion. My brother and my sister had left to my grand aunt's home, which is across the gully we call Aunt Dolly's house. I could see them, I could hear them, right? And I was crying out to them. So I was creeping to them. So I fell over, fell into the astral plane. When I was resuscitated, from then on, every night, some people say, I fly sometimes. Every night, from then until I was 12 years old, I flew. My dreams began as I closed my eyes. I would see little things just circulating like this, vibration, and then it would just form out into plants, more plants, and then I would just find myself sliding along the pathway of the plants, right? Sliding along the pathway of the plants, and then eventually I was just flowing amongst all these trees, this energy, these entities, these vibrations. So the first thing that I lost at 12 years old, when I got awoken, or I came back into this plane, from that plane, was that I lost the connection to this. The ancestors woke me up and said, we started you out for a reason. Now it's time to get back on our path, because we did this for a reason. Remember I said that when I got saved, the ancestors came from off the oceans in their boats to the healer and said, we are so happy he's come to Christ. See, we were waiting for him for such a long time. We are blessing you for being the one that has brought him over. So at 12 years old, I came from out of the astral and came onto this plane, what we call the regular plane, right? Immediately I became suicidal. So what did I lose? When I came over, the vibrational frequencies changed. Because something I would tell you people, when I was in the astral, it's clear and evident. Nature is being. All of this is being. Understand etymology, understand language. All of this is being, not a thing. It is being. State of being. Nature is a state of being. Do you understand? So when I came out of that state of being and come into this world, right? where people go contrary to that state of being. Everything in this so-called tangible plane has been somewhat skewed, bent, curved away from the causal plane, which is the plane of being, where beingness comes from. Nature is a state of being. We are the progenitor of nature. We are a state of being. That is why the state of being has been updated continuously throughout time. That's why no one can truly define. It's not a thing. It's being. We've always been and we will always be. But before we break all these reasonings down into a palette and paint this picture so you can understand. Origin stories, I promised you way back in a video I did down in St. Mary when I was near Tower Isle. I promised you that I would do a video, or I said I would do a little bit more on origin stories, right? How we came into this state of being. Now I just said to you that we've always been. If we've always been, then how are you saying origin story? The origin stories were recordings when man began to become more outpicturing of the inner experience. He began to define a point in when he was squarely recognizing himself outside of that beingness. And so all the origin stories are likened unto me coming out of the plane of being, the astral, where nature is a being, a state of being, into manifestations of that state of being. When humans began to look at the manifestation based upon the fact that they were no longer within the cosmic, what we now call the circadian, Schumann resonance, whatever you want to call it, look it up. When they came out of that, they lost that internal. So origins, the nature of where they are from, because they now became the other, they now became another. Once there was no other, because it's state of being, not beings, being. So when we became beings defined by attributes and manifestation, that's how origin stories come up. So why is it that I am telling you this if it sounds so contradictory? We came out of a state of being, and then we went into another state of being, and then we went into another state of being. We started saying, oh, this is when we began. Why didn't we say it before? Well, I just explained it. We lived innumerable, do you want me to use terminologies? Light years. Trillions upon trillions upon trillions upon trillions of light years in that astral body, in the beingness, in the states of being, before we became manifestations of those states. So am I saying that we never did anything? Whoa, 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 whoa. Calm down. We're getting there. This is the first you're hearing this, so bear with me. Dialectics, connotation, denotation, there's a lot of things I have to consider. Can you go say I'm cuckoo? Just stay with me. It is likened unto what is called a subconscious state. This is where I got the word, the archetype from, see? And source. Source is the state undefined. The archetypes come because there's been a divergence from source. And the archetype is an attempt to recapture source. Origin story, base, archetype. First origin story, my ancestor said don't tell theirs first because it's going to shock people. So let's go with others. let's use the origin story of the Dogons. The Dogons have said, long before, because we're in a European world system and everything, so information is through the European guys, so bear with us while we smash some illusions and reaffirm some affirmations that has been seen through all colors, kindred and tongue. The Dogons spoke about the cosmos in a manner that was unintelligible to European before they invented their generation of the Hubble telescope to look into the interdimensions of the realms above the firmament. Previously, I would not speak about the realms above the firmament because the ancestors didn't want me to speak about it as yet, because it's going to scare people, affirm some people who are not in line with Christian rhetoric, and it would scare others because, wow, it would seem like you're breaking something. So, the Dogons spoke of their planet that condensed and became solid metal. It degenerated in the energy frequency, so they had to leave and came to the center of paradise and was accepted by the beingness, the being in the center of paradise. They spoke specifically of a constellation. They had it in all their cosmology, all their art, which they call art, but it's really a functional astrology, astronomy. Europeans again could not collaborate this information till early 18th century when they got refracting telescopes, right? I can be corrected by people who know this information. Why is that important? I'm telling you about origin stories. Remember I spoke in another video about great beings dispossessed by early age warfare, 30, 40, 50,000 years removed? And when they sing their chants and their songs, they weren't created in any so-called civilization that is in any close time. What they're talking about is beings coming from the skies, forming civilizations right here on earth. That's what those songs are about. Those are other origin stories of beings from other dimensions coming here and seeding the planet with life. And so this is their origin stories. Now I'm going to go into, you have other origin stories. The Chinese have the 8 dragons that came and lifted the lower planes and seeded the planes with what we call the new consciousness, right? Origin stories are infinite. We have the feathered serpent, we've got the rainbow serpent, we've got Quetzalcoatl. And those things will come into context as I go along, so you'll understand. My ancestors say, now it's time to put our information in. So, these origin stories, most times, if not always, tell of beings coming from the heavens, coming to earth, and seeding them with knowledge, creating them in some cases, lifting their consciousness in some cases, adjusting their DNA, their genetic codes in some cases. These origin stories all fit into what my ancestors told me. Because remember I said to you, when a lot of people are saying, oh, the origins of man was in Africa, and they said, well, you were right here. So what are you talking about? Where's Africa? Where's anywhere? Is there anywhere? Or is it everywhere? Right? But then again, they're fitting into a narrative. That's why they tell these stories, because they're looking at the manifestations, right? They don't know the origins, right? So they're talking about manifestations, things they can trace and put their fingers on, tangibility, evidence. But before evidence, there was an existence for millennia, which you or I are not so easily accessed to unless you are accepted back into the astral plane and go into the beingness of nature. So let's continue with the origin stories. So my ancestors said, never there was a time when there was not beings. Never was a time when there were not beingness. Never there was a time when this manifestation of being did not exist. Never there was a time. That means that all origin stories are forgetfulness, a deep sleep where they have lost the subconscious knowing, and have come to a manifest conscious knowing based upon what is seen, evidentful, not that which is DNA, experienced through your genetic code, your genetic memory, your ancestors, or the previous states of your being before this state of being. We're going to go forward. So because there never was a time when we were not, how do my ancestors explain these origin stories? Here it is. What we know as the cosmos has been embroiled in a spiritual war, a cosmic war. And that cosmic war has divided up the heavens, stretched out constellations in a certain manner that was not the nature of these living entities, these entire living cosmic beings were warred to the edge of their own frequency and their etheric fields, right? These warring beings are called the agreeable or the disagreeable beings that spark a differential on the higher planes. What the Dogons speak of was the conflation of their society based upon what had started with misappropriation of the energy, the ores and the minerals, till they bore the core of their plane and started to fracture its very stability. These disagreeable elements at war for each of the dimensions throw things out of alignment. What happens is, when each plane is destroyed, they go to the center of the nexus, which is called the center of the atom, Tiamat. They come here to paradise. So when these beings are telling you where they come from, they came from there. That's a different wavelength and frequency within the beingness, like you'd say a different nation. Along this different frequency, within the same Fibonacci, the same Schumann resonance, these life beings, these life entities, these frequencies, these manifest entities, that's how we're looking at them now. We could look at them as spiritual beings, as consciousness, as vibrations, as frequency. They came into the heart of paradise because their planes were slowly being destroyed by this disagreeable imbalance. What is termed by my ancestor the others, the other, the otherness of thought, the otherness of being, the experiment in the other. I've never gotten a better terminology for it, and I doubt I will ever get a better one. The experimentation in other, in the otherness. They slowly destroyed their planes. All planes are subsisted in the anchorage, which is this plane, which is terra firma. Because the way in which terra firma is like the central nuclei, the quarks and the Higgs and the bosons, the cosmic fabric, all of its entanglements are copulated here in a central orifice of energy. What drives the mechanism is the source of the mechanism. And so they all come to the nuclei, to the central axis within all the dimensionalities, time-space continuum. When in some origin stories the ancestors speak that they were upgraded, it meant thought frequencies of a different way to operate within the Schumann resonance, within the cosmic, within the circadian, was imparted by these beings who were welcome into this dimension. And so the beingness of many creatures that had come out of the center of paradise, they began to be reawoken, because the same frequency that resonates in the center of paradise, in the center of the nucleus, the nuclei, is the same that resonates in the whole cosmos. So let's sing Holy Kadmun in the keyboard. So because these entities came in, was welcome, they shared advanced knowledge. Well, it's weird to say advanced because resonance means that the wavelengths and the rotations of frequency and the magnetic spectrum means that center of the nuclei, the frequencies behave different from outside. How do I say it in a simple way? Nature is a state of being. When we do not have this centralized nuclei, what we depend upon is a plasmatic, a synthetic reality, or a synthetic adjunct to reality. Do they call it augmented? Anyway, we have a synthetic property added to it because it is not within the nuclei. It is not at the center of the energy. So it is not clothed in the biochemical, alchemical script that is I am. It is coded in a different alchemical script, a very hydrogen-based alchemical script. And as such, they need what we call technology to synthesize energy. And so, when they came to man that has been removed from the ultimate source of all this energy, he was impressed, not knowing that in paradise he operated this way without the plasma, without the placebo. He operated in perfect synchronicity because there's no we, they, them, ut, it, ut, at, I, out. It is just I am. Right? And all of us are of the same consciousness. Why you think others are brilliant? That is something that no one can define. You know why? Because no one is more brilliant. You put the truth to a portion of your mind. You forget your baby dreams. You willingly forget them. You willingly forget your astral travel to the dimension called Mars. You willingly forget your journeys through the Pleiades. You willingly forget all the journeys through the underworld, the 33rd parallel. You willingly forget Agartha. You willingly forget Shambhala. You willingly forget the Emerald City. You willingly forget all these things. So, how dare Jerome remember to be called brilliant? Don't call me brilliant. Don't insult me. Never insult me. So, we have the information in the subconscious, rejecting it for the manifestation, being awed by beings who are outside of the nuclei. And when their disagreeableness overcame their agreeableness, all their technology could not save them. They boarded ships, they came through the portals, through the stargates, and they came into this consciousness, this wavelength here, this frequency, this plane. We welcome them. They're sourced by us. This is where the nuclei come from. So all of what you look on, and a lot of times disregard, you think it is a thing. It's a nature of being. It is being. It is the same being you're trying to get in all of the psychedelics and the psychotropics. See, it is the same being. And why do I smoke? Because I came onto this plane, and every time I'm called to go back on that plane, the heart grows a little sorrow for the attachments I've made in this plane. People seem to need to hear me, feel me, and understand what this crazy man is talking about. I would have long gone, because the way in which this plane is, it is not the being that I fully love, Taddy. But I chose to stay here, like the winged Pegasus, for a reason. But even though my service here has been misunderstood, distracted, and confused by some, the purpose is clear. The divine is the manifestation, and that's it. And so, because we have been encultured by beings taught by their separation from paradise, we lose the ancestral, we lose the divine. That has caused us to build outside of what they call the Schumann resonance or the cosmic order. So here is one thing I want to say to you. I spoke in another video about the anthropologists of the present being unable to explain or do not want to show buildings that existed in the first age of what they have come to understand as the manifestation ages, right? They have many periods to call them: Precambrian, Stone Age, this, that. You know what I mean? Metal Age. And what they do not want to tell you, the single most unbelievable fact, what if I, Jerome Butler, tell you that all those age existed simultaneously, and the dichotomy is only by people who are on a different frequency? They're lost from the nuclei, so they're rotating the outer bands, manifestation bands. They cannot see all the reality as one. You see, in the past, when so-called past, let me correct myself, when at that frequency, that wavelength, near the center of the nuclei, where everything is harmonized and it is paradise, when man abstracted himself from that and became the other, there was many amongst them who saw what is now called the future, and saw it looked very much like what they knew in paradise, and they were shocked. So they had a belief that they would re-enter paradise at a different point in the continuum. So as each age go on, they've been trying to find a way for the reset, to singularize all the frequencies, to return into the nucleus, into paradise. Many teachers, many matriarchs, patriarchs came with the codes and through all these great teachers the pathway, but if one goes, there's no satisfaction, because it's just an increment of the all-encompassing. So all who is abstracted, that's why the Christians say salvation. So all who are outside, for whatever reason, have to come back in, because there's no other thing. All disagreeable has to become back agreeable again. So even though they're outside of the awareness of paradise, they know within themselves paradise will return, but they think it's by their own hands, and this is where it comes. So what do I mean that the anthropologists don't want to show you? Well, if they showed you, what brilliance could be accrued to so-called evolution? If computers and all this existed, if the highest electrification existed, if the highest mechanization existed, as a matter of fact, we're not yet at the apex of our technology. We are soon to reach there. And when we reach the apex, we are going to be able to decode all of the previous apexes that we did before, which will tell us the same thing. We've been here before, and we made missiles and shot up there before, and we discovered that there's only one way out of the firmament. We did it before, and we coded it, right? And we also had satellite images of the earth and all the planes, because what? We did it before. We had pianos, we had computers, we had the most advanced everything, and some yet we don't even see, like the advanced augmentation on all these interfaces. Beam me up, Scotty. Beam me up, Scotty. Beam me up, Scotty. These alchemical scripts, these occultists, what do you think they've been studying? To break down this from its materialized orifice and go back to flowing through the cosmic, flowing through the cosmic. I stream stepping through the cosmic. I'm flowing through the cosmic. That's what they're doing, people. That's what they're doing. That's why they hold power over you, because they're trying to manifest the true nature of being, the complete nature of being, while they have the majority of people on wavelength and frequency. But guess what? It's not just that they have, because they've been talking to me and they be like, Jerome, you give us such a hard rap. Please just talk the truth in complete balance. It's not that we do it all the time. People threaten us by their unknowing. They come into these awesome things, and before they harmonize or learn discipline, they want to tear the plane apart. And they're talking the truth. So a lot of you know what I'm talking about. Found that you can do stuff. You didn't come like Jerome Sage and try to teach the world. You're trying to manipulate us. So those beings are weary of you. But I got to tell you something. They're waiting for you. They're waiting for the likes of you. So you can talk about power mongering and power tripping. They're waiting for you. So A lot of these beings know. And they remind me, Jerome, we did things. We made the internet. We did things to say to people, hey, open up, man. There's more in the spectrum. We weren't all blood hungry, thirsty people, because remember, we know that is just what? Externalization of what is internal experience. Do you understand what I'm saying? Experience is not physical, people. So do you think you need this externalization to experience your being? Got it. Your nature of being, state of being. A lot of people are going to be surprised that this will resonate so deeply with them. They're like, nothing you say makes sense, but it makes sense. And before you think me so unusual, like I said, many you already know, and the ancestors want me to keep back on point. Okay, so what is shocking a lot of these anthropologists is that they thought they made certain things, and let's use one thing. There are buildings upon the planet that has been here for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years that's just been repurposed, right? It's just being repurposed. it's just being repurposed. That means there are buildings attributed to what is called Egyptians, Kemethians, that they did not build. God forbid a Nephilim should speak to one of you and say, you liars, you liars, you liars, you liars. In that state of being, we did so much. And you who cannot be comforted in knowing that while we stood 50 cubits high, you stood a few cubits high. And while what you call the dinosaurs ruled 70, 80 cubits high, I rode them. Also did ye. Wanna know why they're mostly found at the end of a ravine? Because i.e. you, I, we, us, them, we made these big, massive, battling ram, these tridents. And what did we do? We hurled it at them. We carried it at them. We lit it on fire and put them over these ravines. That's why they fell there and died there in these ravines. So stop lying. Reveal the sculptures, the works in wood, the works in stone that shows flying cars. Show it to the world. Reveal the things of the iPad, the slate, all of that. Why do I call myself future oriented? Why I say I know the future? I've seen the future. The first thing people said, the time traveling. So I tried to do a little piece on time traveling video, but I couldn't show everything because again the ancestors didn't want me to say everything because I guess we needed time to say it. I already lived the future. It's the past for me, for us, for we. It's only the unconscious, it is the future. You already lived it. And you'll live it again, and again, and again. The reset will come, and you, like a forgetful child, through the river of your lifetime, will think you're just starting over again. So what has been, is. And what is, has been. Nothing new under the sun. So the more we go into the future, the more we go into the past. And the more we get advanced, is the more we will go back to the physical ruins. And this is the point now where this is one of the original points the ancestors wanted to make. Because I've satisfied all the other stuff, so we can go there now. Many of the people with their origin stories, here is what has shocked them. They speak of the remember I'm true alive, so there is also our origin story, right? So I'm just sharing it. Except our origin story isn't an origin, it's a constant reset over and over. At the base of tree of life, ancestors, I'm remembering, at the base of the tree of life, within the cocoon of the dimensions, in the nuclei is wrapped the man and the woman, the self-same, self-egg, self-existent, self-egg, kari. From that is the progeny, symbolically, of the reset. Here's the issue now of all resets. Everything is pairs. So that's the first thing to break the code. So the male and the female, if everything has to be an entangled pair, you say, yeah, male and a female. We say pair. So that means pairs. Males and female. See? So it was not just one male and female. Sets, tartaru, of males and females. When these sets of male and female come up at the extremities, they are called the Manu, Namu, Immanuel, Emmanuel, the one that has survived the cataclysm, Tataru, the reset or the apocalypse, if you want to call it that way, right? So each of these pairs, in their abstracting regions of the plane, they say we are the first being, because they saw no one else but the pair they are, right? And when they began to progenitize, and they have their children have what is called a genetic urge. The genes have the entanglement, that is, right? Quantum physics can talk about this. It draws them out. They say, where are you going? There's nowhere there. This idea of becoming a man and a woman, it used to mean going away from the established herd. The sex hormones, yeah? Can I break it down? The sex hormones drove you. That meant you were looking for your entanglement. There was other people out there, other beings out there. So you would go and you would discover that, oh my God, there are other beings. And so the human family would copulate and began to repurpose the earth, or repurpose the reality. Here's the thing now. Here's one little trick that boggles anthropologists who have not crossed over or have not come from either of the planes in completion, or have not crossed over to either of the planes fully. When the people say that they went out and they started to find the other beings and the copulation began, they noticed other things along the path of earth that boggled them. They noticed ruins. Did you hear me? The first so-called men and women, they noticed the ruins of a previous time, civilization. They didn't build it. They don't know where it comes from. They say, oh my God, it was made by the creators. So creation was never just thought of as just being the plants and the trees, but all of this has been refashioned, repurposed time and time again. We've repurposed this thing time and time again. When life leaves, it is said the plane is void. And then the spirit ascends, descends, and life again regenerates from those seeds, the self-eggs, right? So, in all of this, when we were here, coming back into our awareness of ourselves, is when it began to make sense. Because when we found the others, they too, in search of self too, in search of the entanglement for sexual procreation, they found these ruins. And when they found each other, they said, did you? Did I? They said, no, Tare, because God's made that. It needs power to make that. We can't make this. We take from the trees and feed ourselves. We drink from the rivers. So we have no power to fashion these things. The gods made them. So when educated man came along now, he said, oh, these people made it, and these people made it. They were made eons ago. Eons. Everything you see was made eons ago. When I was in the astral and I saw the future, two books I quoted one, maybe I quoted both of them, people might have known. Two books that I lived the book because it was made from a person who was also on that plane. Yeah. The two books are one, The Crystalids, and two, C.S. L. Lewis, I think it was The Great Divorce. The book where they went into the planes, or we evolved from the lower being, meaning being abstracted and outside of paradise, to letting go of the externalization and returning to your state of being, your center of being in the spirit. And you return to heaven according to the Bible, nirvana according to some, right? This is how it all circulates, harmonizes, and centralizes here. These monoliths has been here for eons, repurposed and reused by each manifestation of being. Each upgrade of being have come closer to doing what we did in that state. And soon the cycle begins again. And soon the cycle begins again. The ruins that we did not create, but yet we did create in a complete different state of our unawareness. That the externalized man cannot understand where it's from, how it got to be there. It outstrips its very existence. The first he recorded himself, these monoliths were there. When he called himself walking and primitive and or he called himself first cause, first nation, and unable to create these things, he saw them there, fashioned just as they are, in all the angles, in the tridents, in all the dimensions, mathematically, cosmically laid out, just like what is termed the heavenly bodies, the heavenly beings, by the way. You know, they say bodies, and nowadays they are just some look of dead matter. These cosmic entities, they are in alignment because that's where the energies come from. That helps to harmonize the nuclei, and all these energy frequencies are entangled. And that is why when a little bit of it came from this, they call them, what they call these now, sacred energy, 0 point energy, as to how the old generation lit their homes in dark climates, heated their homes in cold climates. As a matter of fact, they could control the entire climate because they knew how the entire climate operated. The Chinese have a modern terminology that alludes to it, but it needs to go further. The feng shui of things, but it is deeper in the elemental balances and imbalances because we understood these things. And so those monoliths that were made from the cosmic matter that has caused them to subsist the oxidization, because just like we look at these stones and these things and we thought, oh, they're purely natural. We did not realize that lots of them were cut and blasted and cut and blasted. And these are fine particles, no matter how big they are to us, of previously harvested stones that were carried thousands upon thousands of miles. Just as they do today, even more advanced than they do today. Nothing new under the sun. And as we go into the age of what they call Aquarius, is this awakening. See, it's two words coming into one there. It was awakening and awareness. So let me tell you, sometime you hear me say that, say it. Awakening and awareness. The awakening is to what is already present, that beingness I'm telling you about. It is where this is. It is where all this is. Life is amazingly beautiful and as you think it is, that you can fashion your reality and fashion things, right? Because we are fashioned from that inner being, and the inner being has been distracted. That's why it's materializing. That's why it's called physicalization. As I told you these things, but I couldn't tell you them all before the ancestors told me to put it together, right? Your inner being is physicalizing itself, and it's not. Hey, this isn't physical. So how can you be your cosmic master, your cosmic self, if you're a physicalizing self? And then you're saying that all the higher beings are trying to manipulate you and control you, and you destroy matter, trying to destroy them when you cannot destroy them, because they're not physical beings. They're vibrational beings. And if they even appear to you as physical matter, you can't hurt them. That's why people say they are clothed in great sorcery. Tiny. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? For those people who are killers, let me just be clear. For those who are killers, who go and emptied that machine gun right in the face of that person you wanted to kill. And 2 minutes later, he's looking at you smiling, going, and knock you so far, you woke up 13 years later. And when you started telling what happened to you, they said you're mentally ill. You don't know this plane you're on. And some people think they are ready for power because that's what they call it. Can you imagine? Being yourself, you want to call it power? Why would you say that? Because around you is disempowered beings. Meaning beings who are not being themselves. So if you can come to yourself, they call you dominant, head of the hierarchy. Why do you think I smash those things? You think I want to be disrespectful to people? I want to act because I understand what's going on. So how can you talk about power? You want to outpower me now? You want to show outsmart me now? You want to outwit me now? Really? Is this what it is about? Let me get up and go. Okay, I'm joking. But you know what I mean. And for those who don't, I hope sometimes you will get to know what I mean. Because it is there within you too. Right? So we don't need this will to power. This will to do, this will to be. We already are beingness. Say. We are already beings. Say it. So we are being before we are beings. Confusion is all these beings that are subdividing being. That's why we're not getting it. So all these issues of color, class, creed, race, power, gender will always be a splintering. Beings, not being. This is about being. Nature is a state of being. Thank you. See, I'm talking you. I felt some of you, really. See, I really just felt some of you. Thank you. And in spirit, you should be saying, we should be thanking you. No, 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 no. Thank you. What you have done is akin to what He, the heavens, does every day. When we see the sun, when we can feel the rain. So thank you for recognizing the nature of being within you. And sometimes it's unfortunate that it takes these intellectualisms for us to even bring the argument close. But the thing is, as the cycles go, there's a forgetfulness. That is why it is termed people of faith, or people of spirituality, will enter back into the nuclei first, before the others. And as the highest vibrating magnetism, we have to attract them onto the sacred reclamation. And that's one of the codes I've just broken again for you. And some people call it the mentorship, or at the highest level the archetype, one level the savior. It's the same thing. So those who resonate the highest magnetism have to attract people into the center of the nuclei. And yes, there are some who, I cannot go without mentioning them, are repelling. Though being of the highest magnetism, they are repelling. And for them, you just need to reverse your polarities. You'll attract. So towards the ultimate attraction of the cyclical vibrational nature of being and beingness, I give thanks to all who are termed distant and all who are termed close. For close and distant ancestors is the I am and the I am that I am. I love all manifestations of divine nature because it is the expression of being. Thank you very much, my brothers and my sisters, in all wavelengths and frequencies of your being. Those I await to see, because I can only see you in my emotions, in my thoughts, in my feelings, because that's where your being lives now. Because in this manifestation, we are all in all. That means, who am I without you? And who are you without me? So thank you again. You know so much I'm saying that? Hey, the ancestors, the feeling, so happy. Hey, thank you very much. Remember your blessings, gifts of divine nature unto yourself, unto your entire living cosmos. Continue to express the divine gift you are, the actual unique, sacred beauty that is your spiritual magnificence. Love and blessings.